Hey everybody, this is Larry the Cable Guy. Check this out. So I'm in my truck driving with my buddy, and we was heading up to the men's warehouse to fart in the suits, and he's listening to his phone, and I said, that sounds like Hermie Sadler. He said, it is Hermie Sadler. He's got a podcast called Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I said, Sadler and the Senator? He said, yeah, that's his good buddy, Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I said, well, what in the world? He didn't know this. I said, did you know that Hermie Sadler was voted one of the 50 best looking drivers in NASCAR? He said, I did not know that. I said, because it ain't true. You never know, though. He never takes off his helmet. But I know one thing. This show, Leaning Right, Turning Left, is good. So pull up a chair right there by your phone, get yourself a cold beer, and give a listen right here to this week's episode of Leaning Right, Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I'll tell you what, I bet Michael Waltrip's even listening. He's always wanted to do something like that. Oh, Sadler, got another one over on Waltrip. Get her done.
I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I'm leaning right, and I hope Virginia is tonight on election night.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, turning left, not leaning left, from Emporia, Virginia. A special edition tonight of Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pacematic. And I'll start off, Senator. I just left before I came back to my office. I went out and visited a reception / rally for our friend Otto Waxman out in Greensville County. And things are looking very good for Otto Waxman, although it wasn't over. He just a commanding lead in his race, and he showed me where you were with your race, which we felt confident, in your situation. But the simple fact that people take the time to go out and cast a ballot for you, Senator Stanley, and you're part of the state, congratulations on that. And I know you're hoping for some of that momentum to carry through to some of your other accomplices in the Senate and the House.
Accomplices, indeed. You know, tonight is a big, important night, Virginia election, to determine the 140 seats that are up for re-election and election here in the Senate and in the House of Delegates, 100 in the House of Delegates, 40 in the Senate. It's coming down to about 10 races in the House, 6 races, but now 7 maybe in the Senate. Governor Youngkin has been out there pounding the pavement. I mean, he's really done an amazing job in trying to get out early Republican votes to compete with the Democrats at their own game. He's been visiting all 4 corners of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Really a very involved guy, raised a lot of money, urged us, and I raised a lot of money for other candidates outside my area, gave away a couple $100,000 or more to try to get us a majority in the Senate. And because what's at stake here is what's going to happen with his agenda coming up in the future. And what we've got here is a tight race. I'm as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. It's coming down to the wire. We're recording now on election night. It's about 9:15. We decided to do a special Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, where we're going to kind of talk about these races, how they're breaking down. We're going to get information, try to give it to you. Of course, by the time you're going to hear this podcast, it will be tomorrow morning. We'll get it up as soon as possible. But I thought it was, because politics is a part of this podcast, it'd be great for us to not only talk about what's important here in Virginia, what this means if we can maintain the House of Delegates Republican control and gain the Senate, flip the Senate back to Republican control from Democrat control. Right now, 22-18 controlled by the Democrats in the Senate, 51-52 in the House. It's a tight race for everybody, and control will not be overwhelming for either party. It's going to demonstrate that Virginia truly is split. But thank you for saying congratulations to me. I'm really humbled by what looks like to be over 28,547 so far votes. There's about 10,000 votes left, but that's one of the highest vote totals I've gotten at this stage. 78% win. I congratulate Renee Gates, who was the Democrat, on running a race. She ran a very well-disciplined race in terms of, we didn't go negative on each other. It's an overwhelming Republican district. I worked it hard as I could, but I spent a lot of time raising money and helping other candidates because, it's one thing to be Republican down here in Southside and Southwest Virginia and in your area, but it's another thing entirely when the majority is in the Democrat, liberal-leaning Northern Virginia side, because they can make our lives down here in this area quite awful. So I'm looking forward to another 4 years of fighting hard for Southside Virginia. I'm humbled by the votes. It really is moving when you get 28,000 people to come out and vote for you. Hermie, I was visited about 15, 16 precincts, voting precincts today. Was very humbled by those people that came and talked to me and felt pretty confident. I mean, it's a very conservative district, but you never take anything for granted. So I'm looking forward to the next 4 years of what we can do for Southside and Southwest Virginia, but happy to be back, but just as nervous as I can be right now as the votes tick in. They trickle in these areas, and we've got about 6-7 races in the Senate districts we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 10 or 11 in the House as these votes come in, as this gets closer and closer and closer, and what may decide the future of Virginia and whether Governor Youngkin's agenda of hope and really making a difference in Virginia for all Virginians is going to succeed, or whether we're going to see another brick wall of Democrats standing in the way of good progress, good conservative progress here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
So for the next hour and a half or so, we'll be updating things as it happens. But you have a war room set up there. It looks like you're at your law office up there in Manita. Tell me, so I know as we start this podcast tonight, where do things stand? Where are we? How are you feeling? And then we can talk about specific races and how they may or may not be unfolding like you or let's call them experts thought they would.
Yeah, well, to surprise you, I'm actually at home. So hopefully this we don't have the internet success that we have at the law office, but I wanted to come home because my law office was built in 1798, and after about 9:30, 10 o'clock, you can hear some things banging around in the house. So I decided to be home with my family after a long day, got up early and went from precinct to precinct, shaking hands and talking to the voters, whether they were Democrat or Republican. We had great conversations. So I came back home to be with the family. It's a special time when your 12-year-old can come hug you, and be very proud about you winning. I mean, that means a lot. That's, a lot of times you spend away from your family because of this job on top of your regular job, which mine as an attorney and your attorney. And then to have, just that warm embrace from your kids and your wife, saying, congratulations, Dad, that does make a big difference. And, a lot of people go to these victory parties and they wring their hands and they bite their fingernails. I prefer to be at home with my family to look at all this and kind of digest it. So I'm happy to be here with you, my friend. And right now it is tight. And I've said that word tight a number of times already. There have been some races that are coming down that maybe not be where we want them to be. But there's some races that are surprising. And quite frankly, I think we have a good shot at taking back the Senate. So the 7 races we're going to be watching tonight and talking about as they go on are in Senate District 16. That is Schuyler von Valkenburg, a delegate against incumbent, it's a new district, but Senator Siobhan Dunavant. That is actually a Senate seat that turned Democrat, was a Biden 16.9% winner for Joe Biden in 2020. Terry McAuliffe in 2021, 5.6 for Terry in 2021. So that's the 16th Senate district we'll be talking about. In the 17th, the 17th Senate district, you ran for the nomination. That is a 7% Biden majority, but during McAuliffe and Youngkin, that went 5% for Youngkin. You've got Clint Jenkins versus Ms. Brewer. In the 24th Senate district, you've got the incumbent is a Democrat, Monty Mason. That encompasses York County, Newport News, Williamsburg, Poquoson. Went for Biden by 8%, but went for Youngkin by 3%. You got Monty Mason versus a very popular sheriff, Danny Diggs. And that's a close race right now. We'll talk about that in a minute. The Senate District 27, an open new seat, went 5% for Biden, but also went 8% for Youngkin. You got Tara Durant versus this guy named Joel Griffin. And then you've got like a communist actually running named Monica Gary as an independent. And that's kind of making that race a little strange as well. We'll talk about that. In the 30th Senate District, it's Manassas. It's a new district. 26% McAuliffe. 26% Biden, 4% for McAuliffe over Youngkin. Danica Rome, the guy who's transgendered, versus Bill Wolf, who really came on strong late in the fundraising and messaging department. And then we've got the 31st Senate District, which is Juan Pablo Segura, the Republican, against Russet Perry, a former CIA agent. A lady there was 13% for Biden, but actually went to Youngkin by 0.5%. So that's going on in the Senate. We'll talk about the House in a minute. These are crazy, crazy races. And what we may be doing is we'll talk a little bit about them. Let's get this set up. Then we maybe come back when we have some more results, maybe take a little break, come back. We'll keep doing this on and on as we go through the evening. That way we give somebody a real understanding of what's going on. But, one thing I got to tell you, Herm, is the type of election that has been traditionally run in the Commonwealth of Virginia and all over the United States has changed. Because in Virginia, when the Democrats had control of the House and the Senate and the governor's mansion during what we called the George Floyd summer, where we were in session for 185 days, they changed our election rules to allow 45 days of early voting, a month and a half of early voting. So voting's been going on 45 days, and there are thousands of votes banked that have already been, put in the bank, haven't been counted. Those are still to be released. Governor Youngkin tried to attack very hard on that to try to get some of our what we call low propensity Republican voters who come out during the presidential, but maybe not during these races, to come out and vote. He was very successful where it was a hindrance to us in the last election. He's done that, I think, a very good job. But the other thing is what we've seen is the election that allows for same-day registration and voting, which they've been trying to utilize in places like William and Mary, Virginia Tech, where somebody who lives in New York, has a New York driver's license, has a New York licensed car, but he lives in a dorm in Blacksburg, can go and register that day and say, I'm a domiciliary of Virginia, and go vote. Same day voting registration. And then you have with mail-in ballots that the new rules that the Democrats proposed that now changes the elections forever is that there are people that have mailed in ballots already, mailed them in early, many requests for absentee, what we call AB ballots. But as long as they have a postmark of today on the ballot return envelope, then they too will be counted. And so this may go on for 7 to 10 days. We may not know who has the majority in the Senate and the House for another week. And that's ridiculous. And that's what we're facing. So as much as we're kind of handicapping now, and we're going to get results, we're going to talk about results, at the same time, these results may not be final. And it's because the Democrats have changed the dynamic, not to encourage voting, but to manipulate it. And that's what the problem is here in Virginia, and we're seeing it all over the country.
That's one of the things, as you mentioned, I ran for the Republican nomination here in the 17th, and one of the things that was really frustrating, and I remember saying it hundreds of times as I was campaigning, it should be, with the common sense exceptions, it should be election day and not election season. And the more opportunities that you give people for shenanigans and to put doubt in people's minds and those kind of things, the more difficult it is to get people to truly want to participate and trust the system and want to get involved. And that's what we need. We need people getting involved. And so that was a very frustrating part of and one of the big topics of conversation, as I was going around prior to primary day on June 20th, was how many opportunities there were for shenanigans to take place and for people to have doubt about, is their vote really being counted and counted appropriately? And I hope we can start, get through tonight and get a majority back for the conservatives and start it, put common sense back on the agenda. And that would be, common sense works regardless of where you live in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we certainly need more of that in Richmond.
And you're not kidding. And when you use that word shenanigans, you mean voter fraud, and that's the potential. And we've seen voter fraud. I mean, if you're looking at the TV, I guess it was like Connecticut or something, a judge has called for a new election because there was film evidence of ballot stuffing that was going on. So it does happen. I mean, it's out there. And how do you fight it? Well, you either fight it two ways. You be vigilant, and you make sure that the election laws are strong and true and not so flimsy like they are in Virginia, and that cuts down on the potential for election fraud. or you cheat with them. And Republicans never, ever decide for themselves to cheat with them. And so we all end up getting the short end of the stick. And if you don't think voter election fraud is ongoing, then you're living in another world. And, it's an amazing, amazing thing that we're seeing in today's society, in a free society, that elections can be bought and paid for, and elections can be fraudulently won. And then when the one side, and usually the Democrats win, they go, "Hey, what do you mean? Nothing to see here. Keep going on." And then when there's evidence of voter fraud, here's what you get. You get, unfortunately, an agenda that's not reflective of the people, because it was just the people may have voted for you, but they changed the votes for them. And then in the end, they get their way, and we just sit there and wring our hands and say, why did we lose? So let's dive in to see where we are at, it looks like 9:30 at night on a Tuesday, election night. The polls closed at 7. They were open at 6 o'clock in the morning. All of us who were running for re-election or election were out there early, shaking hands and trying to convince the last bit of voters who might be undecided. We're thanking those that were coming out. They came out and voted for us. And so what we're looking at right now. Yeah.
Hey, before you get into that, I'd like to hear it from you, and you kind of set the stage before you go through some of these numbers. In your opinion, what are or what were the top 3 issues on voters' minds heading to the polls in the Commonwealth of Virginia today on either side of the aisle?
Well, and it's regional, by the way. I mean, down here, very conservative areas, we're worried about Bidenomics. We're worried about voter fraud. We're worried about the woke agenda of the left. We're worried about our kids and whether we have, as parents, a right to participate in their education. I think parental rights statewide was an issue. I think the economy was a big issue that, at least from the polling that I saw, was there. But the Democrats were, when, as Governor Youngkin said, we live as a party on hope, they were driving fear. And so one of the big topics that they were trying to make an issue out of was abortion, that somehow that we were going to take away every abortion right that any person might have to an abortion. And the Democrats were the ones with the radical policy that was abortion on demand and abortion after birth. And Governor Youngkin's proposal was, look, let's cap it like the Europeans do at 15 weeks. I mean, we think of Europeans as the most progressive countries out there, and they cap it at 15 weeks. We're actually radical by allowing abortion on demand. And it's quite an industry, multi-billion dollar industry of killing babies. So that kind of was a dividing line, especially up in Northern Virginia. Now down here, we're very strong and pro-life, but up in Northern Virginia and a couple of these races in the suburbs of Henrico outside of Richmond, those were issues that were played to the forefront. So those are probably the big issues. The economy is one thing. Abortion was another. And then parents' rights in the education and the public education of our children through the Commonwealth of Virginia. And now Republicans win on, I think, all of those. But it depends all regionally where you live, because people think differently in Northern Virginia and outside the suburbs of Richmond than they do, say, in Grayson County, Carroll County, Patrick County, Floyd County, Franklin County, where I represent, Wythe County and Carroll. So, and the city of Galax and the city of Martinsville. So, different thoughts are based on the people that live there, and regionally we're divided on those issues. So, looking at where we are right now, of the House and Senate races, we'll look at the Senate first. In the Senate races that have been called already, right now it's 13 Democrat races have been called as of 9:30, 12 Republican, 15 are undecided. It really comes down to where we need 3 to 4 of these races to go our way in order to create a majority, even at 2020, in the Senate of Virginia. In those 6 races we talked about, 16th, the Senate, 17th Senate District, 24th, 27th, 30th, and 31st. Let's go through them. Unfortunately, and it's heartbreaking for me right now, in the 16th Senate District, which is Henrico County, Schuyler von Valkenburg, who is a delegate, very liberal. A lot of his Democrat friends tell me he's probably one of the whiniest, emotional people on the planet. I've found him to be okay. But he is beating Siobhan Donovan, a wonderful, brilliant senator, OBGYN. Abortion was the main issue. And he looks like he's opened up a lead there with 55 of 56 precincts reporting, which doesn't leave a lot there. So you got one precinct of today voting going on, and that one precinct that might be left is the absentee and early vote precinct. So you're talking about 27,000 votes, 27,469 votes for von Valkenburg. Donovan's got 24,544. So he's opened up nearly a 3,000 vote lead, a 52.6 to 47.808 majority on her, but 26,452 early votes left. I hate to say it. It breaks my heart. And I gave her a bunch of money, and we all did. I mean, it was one of the most expensive races in Virginia. But it looks like that von Valkenburg is going to defeat Siobhan Donovan, which is a real blow to us. But it was a tough race. I mean, what I was telling you before, that is McAuliffe won it over Youngkin by 5%. Biden won that district, that new district, by 17%. That was a tough race to begin with. So we can give that race away, but we got to run the table on the others.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be, but I was hearing in the final weeks leading up to this that Senator Donovan had some concerns or was asking questions about some of the feelings that some of the small business owners had in her district about our skill game legislation as well. Could that have had, if this ends up going the other way, could that be a concern? Because I had gotten some calls from some people in that part of the state, wanting answers that I didn't have related to, where people in power in the Commonwealth of Virginia stood on the skill game lawsuit. So tell me what you can about that, if it's even applicable.
Yeah, well, I think it's applicable because you've got about a 30% Hindu, Indian, Pakistani population in Henrico, a growing community in there. And a lot of them own convenience stores, restaurants, and bars. A lot of them engage in the skill game marketplace, the gaming marketplace. And I can tell you, Dr. Donovan, Senator Donovan, he's an OBGYN, was very supportive of skill games, reasonable taxation and regulation. She was always in my ear about it. She wanted to know more about it, was never against it. And certainly I went up there last week and rallied with about a couple hundred of those vendors, those convenience store operators, to get behind Siobhan Donovan. So it was a concern. I don't know where Schuyler stands on this, but he should stand with us on that issue. But Siobhan Donovan is and was a very strong proponent for the legalization of skill games, the tax and regulatory thing that we've been asking for. So, but of course that became a late changing issue. And, a lot in that community were questioning because, again, as you and I talked about, Governor Youngkin was the defendant in the case. Jason Miyares, both Republicans, was the lawyer representing the Commonwealth of Virginia in your case against them, against the state, which started with Ralph Northam and Herring, two Democrats, and they inherited it. But rather than settle it, they fought and appealed and got the vacating of the temporary injunction for the time being prior to our trial, which has hurt these businesses, and that could have moved the needle. But we're talking about a loss here, a difference right now of about 3,000 votes with one precinct left and 26,000 early votes left. You'd have to think that and hope that Donovan has banked a net gain of 3,000, 4,000 votes out of the 26,000 early votes that are left and yet uncounted. But the Democrats are usually pretty good about banking those things. If we can only compete and stay even with them, then we've got competition. But right now they still have an advantage on the ability of getting those voters out and packing those votes away. So that is not looking good at 9:30 here in the Commonwealth of Virginia on the Senate District 16. When we go to Senate District 17, that's Hampton Road South Side. That's an area that you're very familiar with, having run for the Republican nomination. But for the Senate District 17, right now, Emily Brewer, Republican, is beating Clint Jenkins, 91 of 102 precincts, reporting 9,000, almost 10,000 votes outstanding of the early votes that are left to count. Emily Brewer has a lead of 34,976 over 31,555. So that's about 3,400 votes. That's a pretty good lead, but it's not substantial. And that was a race that we were talking about that we expected to go to the Republican side. We have maintained a lead all night, but you just don't know what's in that Easter egg of 9,917 votes left there. Herm, what do you think? You live there.
One thing I can report on as far as the 17th, as I said earlier, before we came and taped, I went up to an event with Otto Waxman that he was having right here in Emporia in Greensville County. and he even made a comment that that he and Emily Brewer were doing much better in Brunswick County and surrounding areas than ever before, as far as a Republican in that area. So I can only hope, there's no silver lining for me, not being able to potentially represent the people of my district. But I know my involvement, we brought a lot of attention and notoriety and the issues and those kind of things. And my hope is that some of the people that we awoke on the Republican side, the sleeping giant, you might say, in Brunswick County and that part of Southside Virginia, hopefully that is helping Otto Waxman and Emily Brewer in this side of Virginia, especially Brunswick County, that has typically been a very, very strong Democratic area.
And that would be a surprise. I was the chairman of the 5th District Republican Committee. Brunswick was a part of that in the old redistricting before the new 5th was reconstituted this past year. And that was a Democrat county. And so to think that they are overperforming in what has been a Democrat county speaks a lot to probably why a primary in this race was important.
I was going to say, you probably got the same stuff I do, but at least on my computer, they have called this race for Van Valkenburg.
I just saw that. The green check. Are you looking at VPAP?
Yes.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Donovan has unfortunately been declared the loser. Van Valkenburg, the winner of the new Senate 616. I'm heartbroken about that. She's one of my favorite people, one of the most brilliant people I've ever met, and a real asset to Virginia. And that's crushing. So, when we lose that seat, then we've got to start running the table here. And Emily Brewer looks like she's going to win the 17th. She's on her way to win, but I don't think it's being called right now. And then so we drop down to Senate District 24, which is basically on the peninsula. You're talking Poquoson. You're talking Williamsburg. You're talking those areas right there. Very popular sheriff, Danny Diggs, retired, ran for the Senate seat. That is a tight race. That's been going back and forth. Looks like from the things I'm looking at, Monty Mason has a slight lead, 30,000 to 29,000. Less than 1,000 votes separate them, 50.9 to 48.87. I'm going to go over here to the state election results and see if anything gets better, because they're usually up to date a little bit quicker than VPAP. Got actually Danny Diggs at 29,268. Monty Mason at 30,490. That's now a little bit bigger. They have got at least one area. Let me see. And you got to look at this because, it's not just, you look at the top line numbers, but what you got to really look at is where it's coming in, because he's going to be coming in big in Poquoson. And we got to see here. James City County came in. There's still a precinct out there. That's Danny Diggs should be winning that right now. Monty's winning it. It's not a big vote count, but that should change. Newport News City, Danny Diggs lost there, it looks like, but a couple precincts out there pretty handily. Poquoson has not come in, and that's got to be a big, big Republican area from them. Williamsburg City is basically in. York County came in for Danny. So it's really going to come down in this race to Poquoson City, which is a ton, and they had a huge turnout today. And so there's still some good hope for Danny Diggs as we're talking right now. And when we take a break, when we come back, that may change, but it's looking a lot better for Danny. I think that, we got to win that race, but when it comes right down to it, he's going to either do it and get us to the majority, or if he loses, I think then all hope is lost. But we'll see. This is a long night, and remember, it's an early night of what may be many days in determining the final vote results. Even if we think we've got somebody who might be in the Republican side or Democrat side, that may change, especially if the vote count is there. So Monty Mason, Danny Diggs fighting it out in the 24th.
Yeah, I want to mention too, while we're talking, some of the things that are more localized to me here, but I want to congratulate our sheriff here in Greensville County, Timmy Jarrett, on winning re-election tonight. The people of Greensville County and the city of Emporia stepped up big, a big time win. He was being challenged by Mario Walton, who's also a friend of mine that was a former deputy sheriff, now works within the school system. And But Timmy Jarrett has done a great job for Greensville County as sheriff. And you talk about safety and school safety and, the streets and all these other problems that we have in areas like we live in. It's a comforting thought to know that the people here in Greensville County, Southside Virginia, have voted to send Timmy Jarrett back as our sheriff. And also in the neighboring county, Brunswick County, my good buddy Brian Roberts has been reelected a sheriff again in Brunswick County. Not much of a surprise there. He is one of the most popular sheriffs probably anywhere in the Commonwealth of Virginia. He unites people, gets support from both sides of the aisle, has done a great job, runs a great department. And so congratulations to Timmy Jarrett and Brian Roberts on being reelected sheriffs here in part of my little area of Virginia.
That's great. That's great news. And they're great sheriffs. And so we congratulate both of them. At least there are some winners. And when we talk about these Senate and House races, 140 seats, there's also a ton of school board seats that are up. There's a ton of board of supervisors and city council and town council seats that are up in this November election. So local elections do matter. Even if, one party gets control in the House or the Senate to the other, those seats are so important, especially when it comes to the future of our children and their education at the school board level and the direction of our counties and cities and towns and spending our taxpayer dollars that we collect for those localities and make the directional changes that help economic development and the direction of those areas for generations to come can be made out of this election today. So those two elections you're talking about are very important because those are law and order candidates. Those are not defund the police candidates. Those are not problem candidates that the left supports. Those are strong in law enforcement, and those are great wins for those areas no matter what. Now, we go on to Senate District 27. Remember, we got to keep a scorecard here. Tara Durant has opened up a big lead, 47 to 48 precincts to go. One precinct left, 23,000 early votes left. She's opened up a 4,000 vote lead, almost 3,500, 4,000 vote lead over the Democrat Joel Griffin. Monica Gary, the communists, got 2,000 votes, which obviously pulled for the Democrats total. Senate District 27, Fredericksburg area. Tara Durant, she's a delegate, a Republican. She looks like she's probably going to pull that off. So maybe we're putting her in the win column along with Brewer. That gets us better, and that gets us closer. She's up 23,185 votes to 19,514, with one precinct left in the early votes, 23,602 to go. So that's looking good. But then we drop down to Senate District 31, which is Loudoun and Fauquier. That's your last bastion of Republicanism, or at least where we could challenge in Northern Virginia. Otherwise, we're totally out of Northern Virginia. And unfortunately, right now, Russet Perry, we talked about her. She was a former CIA agent. She's got a growing lead on Juan Pablo Segura, a real shining star in the Republican Party. He's got 38,877 votes. She's got 43,484. I'm not a math guy, but that's a difference of almost 4,500 votes. 61 to 63 precincts, 3,000 votes early left. You'd have to hope that those 3,800 early votes left would go to all to Juan Pablo, and that would only get him kind of close, but not over the top. And we're hoping those last two precincts had 2,000 or 3,000 people in it. So it's not looking good for Juan Pablo, which means it's not looking good for Republicans right now in the Senate all of a sudden. But what we have going on right now, and I want to go to that, and you're looking at VPAP at the same. I want to go to the results in the Senate that are coming up in the sleeper race that all of a sudden is coming out of Virginia Beach. We had a special election. You were talking about that special election. It was a tight election last time. It involved Kevin Adams, and then what was that guy's name? He's a football player. I can't remember now. Hold on.
Rouse.
Oh, yes. Rouse. Aaron Rouse. That thing is, let me tell you what. Right now, the votes have come in right now, and this could be the difference of 20 to 20, giving us control of the Senate. The votes as of 9:44, Kevin Adams, Republican, 13,383. Aaron Rouse, Democrat incumbent, 1 year Democrat incumbent, 13,382. A difference of one stinking vote.
Wow.
You got 28 to 48 precincts. Hope for those, the 20 that are left are ours. 18,000 votes left. This is a tight one and really a sleeper race. I'd given Kevin Adams, and he's a really great guy, great candidate, worked real hard, giving him money. And Aaron's a nice guy, but he's looking over the fence. He's looking to try to be a congressman or, run for statewide office. He won't even stay. I said he wouldn't even stay 4 years in the Senate because he was looking elsewhere. But Kevin Adams has been running a grassroots campaign out there with one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Senator Bill DeSteff, who has just been a tiger out there, pushing Kevin Adams, making people believe when even some in the Republican Party and even in the upper echelons of the Republican Party were saying maybe we should pull out of that and put our resources elsewhere. He might just be the sleeper that actually brings the Republicans back into control of the Senate. That is going to be a dogfight all the way to the end. You can count on recounts, you can count on challenges, you can count on ballot stuffing, you can count on votes coming in the next 10 days. Man, we're going to see some things there that are going to just kind of blow you away. And so there's where we are right now in the Senate. And that, if that gives us, so we got Brewer, I'm going to give this to Diggs right now, and Durant, even though Diggs is down a little bit, it looks like the Pocosin vote, he's less than 1,000 votes. He's going to pick up a lot more than 1,000 votes there. Rome gets the hook on that one. Rome is kicking Bill Wolf's butt. He gave a great shot there. 26% to Biden, 4% to McAuliffe over Youngkin. We had a lot of hope for him. Some polling numbers look really good, but it looks like he's going to lose. Seguro's going to lose. So what we've got to hope on is a Danny Diggs, Brewer, Durant, and Kevin Adams win. And that's how you you play political bingo in the Senate to get control of the Senate. So that's where we are right now at 9:47 in the Commonwealth of Virginia, brother. I mean, this could not be any closer. And this is, I guess, what we expected. And the Democrats, there was $178 million spent in these races, House and Senate. Can you imagine that? When I ran against Roscoe Reynolds in 2011, I dropped down and he was a 17-year incumbent. They said there was no way I could beat him. I spent $1.2 million, raised it and spent it. I think he spent about $1 million. Roscoe Reynolds did. It was a $2.3 million race. And they said, that's ridiculous. Outrageous. And you're talking like in the Donovan race, they probably spent 10, 11, $15 million and 170 some odd million dollars over 140 seats. And a lot of those were not contested. That's outrageous. And it demonstrates to us where our politics now in the Commonwealth of Virginia is becoming much like Washington, D.C., where the money creeps in, the special dark money creeps in. And now it's not the people's decision anymore. It's the dark money's decision that makes the power switch occur.
How are things looking over on the House side? I mean, we've talked a lot about the Senate. It's just as important.
Because all I care about.
Conservatives to hold on to the House.
That's all I care about, Herm. I mean, House, when's that? What's that? House? All right, so here's what I'm going to say. So I think what we should do here is, we've been going on for about 35, 36 minutes. Let's take a break and let's do some analysis so we can come back in about 10 minutes. It'll feel like 2 minutes to everybody else. And as you listen to this the next time, because we're calling this like it's a horse race, and you and I look at the House, we'll click over to that, see what's going on, try to get the featured races first, see where we are, try to get our vote count. It's going to be tight. Right now, they're looking at 42 Democrats been secured election or been declared the winners, even without the voting in 42. So they only need 8 more seats, 32 Republican. That means we need 18 more seats. We need 19 more seats. And it's coming down to, like I said, about 10, 15 House races. I think there's going to be some calls for Republicans that have not been yet called. But we'll go over those in about a second. But what I'm thinking is we're going to take a break now, and we're going to have a word from our sponsors. It'll probably be a word from you and me and our ads that we put on here every week. But they're our sponsors too. And then we'll come back and see if we can't handicap what we think is going to happen and finish out the second segment with what we think what's going on in the House and where we think it's all going to end up here and where we go as a Commonwealth here in Virginia from here. How about that? As your dad says, how about that?
Yeah, we'll take a short. I'll talk to you later. How about that? Yeah, we'll crunch the numbers, take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace and Matt.
Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it.
Hi, folks. This is Hermie Sadler. Thanks for listening to our all-new podcast, Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I hope you are enjoying the show as much as Senator Stanley and I enjoy bringing it to you. Whether you're a family traveling together or a truck driver hauling freight up and down the highway, I hope you will take the time to visit one of our Sadler Travel Plaza locations in Virginia and North Carolina. Sadler Travel Plaza locations are licensed dealer locations for Pilot Travel Centers, and we also carry Shell Motiva petroleum products for our four-wheel friends. We pride ourselves on providing one-stop shopping for service, food, and entertainment. Our food options include Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Quiznos, Dairy Queen, Hermie Sadler's Faux Show Bar and Grill, Victory Lane Restaurant, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Dunkin' Donuts, and much, much more. Our locations include Sadler Travel Plaza in South Hill, located off I-85 at exit 12. The Sadler Travel Plaza of Emporia, which is conveniently located on exit 11B off I-95, and Sadler Travel Plaza on Highway 58 in Suffolk. We also have our North Carolina location, Sadler Travel Plaza in Dunn, North Carolina. That's exit 75 off I-95. We appreciate all of our customers, and Bill and I appreciate you listening to Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
Hey, this is Bill Stanley, Hermie Sadler's sidekick on this podcast. When I'm not in Richmond at the Capitol or doing this podcast, my real job for the past 27 years is as a trial attorney with the Stanley Law Group. Here at the Stanley Law Group, we represent our clients in every courthouse in the Commonwealth. No problem is too small for us to solve. No case is too big for us to win. Whether it's criminal charges, traffic offenses, civil disputes, litigation matters of any sort, we handle it all. We make sure that we treat every client like family because they are to us. Your problem is our problem. Your success is our success because we hate to lose more than we love to win. And believe me, we win a lot. Don't believe me? Go ask Hermie. I'm his favorite lawyer, and he hates lawyers. So give us a call at 540-721-6028 and let us help you. Or visit our website at www.vastanleylawgroup.com. That's www.vastanleylawgroup.com. At the Stanley Law Group, we'll make sure we're the lawyers that you swear by and not at. And we're back. I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I'm leaning right, but Virginia ain't leaning that right now.
And I'm Hermie Sadler. It is 10:06 p.m. on election night here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Senator Stanley. And I'll say it one more time. It doesn't look like the way things are headed across the Commonwealth, but congratulations to you on your victory. Not surprising, but a lot of support, people getting out and voting for you in the new 7th. So congratulations to you.
Thanks again. It's a great victory for the people of Southside. I fight so hard for them and will continue to do so. But when we look at the rest of the Commonwealth, which sometimes tries to dictate how we live our lives and our values down here in Southside and Southwest Virginia, we may have Democrat control looming again in the Senate 22-18. That's the possibility. When Hermie, we went off the air, we started doing the math there, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And quite frankly, the way some of these votes are shaping up in the House, I mean, these elections will not be over tonight. They may not even be over tomorrow. They may go into the next week. But usually those votes that come in late usually favor Democrats. So election day is our day, but it hasn't been a great day for Republicans, as much effort as our good Governor Youngkin has put into this. And I can't help but look at this when we look at the Senate and the House, Herm, and to be quite honest with everything here, is that we had one particular House of Delegate member who had achieved some seniority for Southside Virginia, who had actually gotten herself in a position where she would have been in leadership, and it is close as it's going to come down to maybe 50-50. And that House seat that she might run in going to a Democrat, if she had stayed in the House and assumed that leadership position, and we maintained the leadership and allowed another candidate in the Senate 17th to win, because it looks like Clint Jenkins was an easy beat, that maybe we'd be having a better day in the House and could have put more resources in, say, the other Senate races that might have made a difference to these very tight races. I'm just saying that. That's my opinion. I'm not making you agree to that. But certainly that point was brought up to me by my very astute political wife. Well, she's my wife, but also my political wife. She's very astute on these things, Laura. And, hindsight's always 20/20. But we had a lot of defections from the House of people trying to run for these new Senate seats. And it may have cost us the House of Delegates. That's still to be seen. But that's up in the air, something to think about.
Yeah, it's concerning. And first thing that comes to mind, you mentioned earlier in our first segment about how hard that Governor Youngkin had worked and how much travel he had put in, how much money he had raised, and these kind of things. And you have to say, disappointingly, and it's not over. There's still more votes to come in. A lot of early votes yet to be counted, but it doesn't look like the momentum that Governor Youngkin had when he got elected a couple years ago is carrying over through I give him credit. He worked as hard as any governor I have seen in recent years going around the state, not only helping candidates, doing rallies, raising money, notoriety, those kind of things, but it just doesn't look like, or to this point, Bill, that Virginians are ready to turn the keys over to one particular party.
No, and that sometimes, the balance of power is the balance of power. You see it a lot of times. You'll have a Republican president and a House controlled by the Dems, or the Senate controlled by the Republicans, and sometimes split government works. It certainly slows down agendas, but the problem has been in Virginia, at least a couple of years prior, when Ralph Northam was the governor. At some point for that short period of time, we had a 2-year Democrat-controlled House, 2-year Democrat-controlled Senate, and 2 years governor, and they rammed through a lot of bad legislation and made very bad laws and really changed the way we even do politics and elections here. And we've talked about it earlier in the first segment. And what we're seeing is that you can't unwind that stuff in a split government. You can't try to even find a happy medium as long as one party that made those rules is still in control. And we pay a price for it here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's a sad day for the Commonwealth if we lose the Senate. Well, we never had it for the last 2 years, but if we now have the next 4 years with Democrat control, let me tell you, some of these Democrats coming in from Northern Virginia are whack jobs. I had Senator Dick Saslaw, who been there for 30 years, was a liberal. We didn't agree on much, but he was a man of the Senate and of its traditions. And I said to him as we were walking out the last time we were in the Senate chamber, I said, you know what, Dick, I'm going to miss you. And he said to me, Bill, you think you're going to miss me now? Just wait until these whack jobs from the Democrat side come in that replace us and replace, the older senators from Northern Virginia. He was foretelling what could be a very dangerous future for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I'm telling you right now, I fear for my Commonwealth, but the election's not over. And so you always hold out hope. But when you go to bed one night and you think you're winning, you wake up one night and you're losing to the Democrats all of a sudden for no particular reason because they've changed the rules of the game. We certainly think that if we're going to bed not in a power position, I don't know how it changes and makes it better for us. The only good thing, Herm, that I can see so far is that the casinos that you and I have fought against in trying to protect small business in these skill games, the casinos that want to keep it small and control it all and not allow small businesses to participate in the skill game gaming marketplace, had another referendum. They got beat last time, 52-48 in Richmond, to put a casino in Richmond. This year, they spent over $10 million to get that referendum back on the ballot for a second try. And you'd think with that against little tiny Paul Goldman, a friend of mine, he's a liberal lawyer, but they called him nasty names, anti-Semitic names. He formed a committee like Say No Again to casinos. Casinos spent a record $10 million on just a referendum. And guess what, Herm? The results are in. The city voters defeated the ballot measure to allow a casino in the city of Richmond 58-42. It was a stomping. No casino in the city of Richmond, in the capital of the Commonwealth. Casinos go down to a huge, huge defeat tonight. At least there is a shining star here.
And why do you think that is?
That's a great question. I don't know if you guys, at your TV station saw some of the ads that were going on. They promise all this hope and of this will pay for that and for education and these things. But what you're doing, again, the business model for casinos is it's a vice. And you're asking the vice to pay to fix vices and problems in our city, like addiction, and to modernize schools. And that's not a real good reason to do it. And quite frankly, I think the city's voters, which are overwhelmingly Democrat, rejected it by, it looks like, 16 points. I mean, that's not even close, 58-42. And they just got their butts handed to them. So, you know what? Take that, casinos. You guys have been fighting against the little guy trying to boss us around in the Commonwealth of Virginia, trying to tell us how we should live our lives and dictate economic policy to us. Well, you just got a big fat no from Richmond. So I guess that maybe does it allow Petersburg to have a vote on a casino? Because remember, legislation here that we passed says if you want a casino, and we have a limited number that we can have in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the voters of that area have to vote it in. And I don't even know if Petersburg wants something like that. Petersburg's been working hard to turn their lives around. I don't think they need this kind of panacea white pill that Danville took and Bristol took and Portsmouth took. I don't think they need that in Petersburg. But a big defeat tonight for the casinos, the big conglomerate monopolistic casinos.
And listen, and congratulations, if that's the right word, to the people of Richmond for standing up for what they believe and standing up to the money and the bright lights, because that is what really has taken effect. We talk about it all the time. Rosie's opens up right here, in our hometown, and they talk a lot about how much money they're going to give away, and they're going to do this for charity, that for charity. They say all that stuff online and on the radio and in the newspaper and all that, but behind the scenes, they are being very hurtful and using their money, power, and influence to take away the rights of other small businesses so that they can operate in a monopoly. And so congratulations to the people of Richmond now for the second time for standing up for what they think is right and not being blinded by the shiny bright lights these in this basket or bag of goods that these casino people are trying to sell these communities. They if they were willing to come in and operate with the same, how many times have we said it, Bill, for the last 2 years? A level playing field. That's all anybody can ask.
Yeah.
But they refuse to operate that way. They have been interfering and meddling in our lawsuit since the very beginning because they want to push their monopoly on small businesses and force people to tell people where to go spend their hard-earned money, and it's just not right. So does it help us or hurt us in our crusade for the little guy and our crusade for the rights of small businesses? I don't know, but it does say, at least the people in Richmond are saying, we know what's good for our community. We know what small business operations in our communities do, and we don't want a bully in our neighborhood. So congratulations to the people of Richmond.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. And I think, quite frankly, I think it helps our cause because, at some point in time, this barking dog, this biting dog that has been attacking our communities, that has been attacking our small businesses, just got hit in the nose and just got pushed back. And the bully met the bull, and the bull were the citizens of the city of Richmond. And you're right. Congratulations for them standing up. I mean, so I was just looking at an article that just came out on Axios Richmond. It was Richmond was one of only 5 Virginia cities that were approved to host casinos, but they had to do it by referendum. Urban One, which is, of course, they are Churchill Downs, which is a big opponent of skill games, one of the worst opponents that we have. They own the Kentucky Derby, Churchill Downs. I mean, it's a euphemism for horse racing. They spent $10 million on the referendum campaign, which works out to be $135 per each vote cast. That's a big number. They blanketed local airways and ads, had paid volunteers paid army knocking doors, hosted even concerts. They argued that it would bring investment and jobs to Richmond, into the neglected corner of Richmond where they were going to put it. The city leaders pledged to spend about half of the $30 million a year. And that's it. $30 million a year in tax revenue. That would be it on new early education and child care programs. But Paul Goldman, that one-man show, and he's got to be feeling pretty good about himself. And it was, I think his campaign was called No Means No to Casino. He countered that the casino would only extract wealth from the city, noting that new tax revenues touted by supporters depends on local gambling, on local citizens gambling, and that those local citizens would lose over $70 million a year. And when he came out strong, filed lawsuits, they tried to keep him from knowing who was on the election rolls in the city of Richmond so he could contact them. They used racial slurs, anti-Semitic slurs against him, calling him a Judas, a Jewish Judas, betraying Jesus. And can you imagine the casinos comparing themselves to Jesus, and a single man, grassroots activist like my friend Paul Goldman stood up and said no. And what do they do? They demonstrate exactly the racists that they are, that they think they can roll over individuals of good character. And Paul is. He's a Democrat. He's liberal. But man, he's a man of great character. And he's honest. I'll give you that. And he had asked myself and Attorney General Tony Troy to get involved in the matter. Tony gave him some good legal advice. But quite frankly, to see the little guy beat the Goliath gives me more hope that we're going to win our skill games lawsuit, but also that there'll be a reckoning in the General Assembly, no matter what the majority is, that allows skill games to operate in our small businesses throughout the Commonwealth. So bravo, Paul Goldman. Way to go, buddy. And take that, casinos. Suck it. Because you just got your butts kicked. I mean, bad. I know Paul Goldman, his budget was less than $200,000 compared to Urban One, Churchill Downs spending over $10 million. What does that tell you? That gives me hope in the citizens of the city of Richmond and throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia that they're not beholden to these big, giant, monopolistic casinos.
Yeah, I mean, the casinos, in layman's terms, they got the casino on the ballot in Richmond. Richmond said no. Then the casinos come in like they're trying to do, getting involved in our lawsuit so they can control the market. After Richmond votes no the first time, they come back and say, oh, Richmond, y'all made a mistake. Let me once again tell you what you need. And they tried to shove it down their throat again and came up short. So I'm with you. Not sure what it means in the big picture for us, other than I do hope that it means that people are starting to pay attention and starting to understand a little bit about why you and I and our team have been fighting so hard. Because all these things, if you let these people, because they have money, power, and influence, if you let them win, it sets a bad example. Not only circumvents the free market system, free enterprise, all the freedoms we have supposedly given to us by the Constitution, it's just sets a bad precedent. And I'm glad that in this case, kind of like we're doing, the little guy, or the little guy, in this case, the people in the city of Richmond voted no to Goliath and the bully. And so congratulations to them.
Yep. Way to go. And so now we're going to get back to the races real quick. And I think what we're going to have to do, bud, is we're going to go one more run through maybe quickly in the Senate, because it's getting tight again. It's still up in the air. I think, maybe we could be 22-18. We could be 21-19. We could get to 2020 here. Some things have changed since we talked. Right now, they've declared 19 Democrat seats in the Senate, 15 Republican seats. We've got 3 that we're looking at now, which put us at, you're talking about, let's see here, in the choice races. Right now, I think the featured races, we've seen a change all of a sudden. As we said, Donovan loses in the 16th. Emily Brewer wins in the 17th, looks like by 4,000 votes, although there's 4,000 votes left outstanding. I don't think Clint Jenkins gets 100% of those, so he probably loses. Tara Durant is taking a nice big lead, 48 out of 48 precincts, at least a nice big lead of over 1,000. There's still those uncounted votes that may be floating out there in the same day registration stuff. But she's up by over 1,000, 1,500 votes, 48 out of 48 precincts left, 0 votes left. I'm going to call that for Tara Durant. picks up the seat in Senate District 27 to give it to us. It's not been declared yet. So I'm saying Brewer gives a 16, Durant gives a 17. Danny Diggs has now taken a 12, looks like a 50-60 vote lead against Monty Mason. All of a sudden, 43 out of 43 precincts. Cosin came in strong, made up that 600 vote difference, but there's 2,432 votes, early votes left as of 10/24. And unfortunately, and that's in Senate District 24 in the Peninsula, Senate District 31, Loudon and Fauquier, a really good candidate, Juan Pablo Segura, who spent a boatload of his own money and ours. I think we're not going to see the last of him. He'll be out there. Got 38,000 votes to 43,000 votes for Russet Perry. She is now probably the winner on that, 52-47. 61 is 63 precincts in, 3,800 early votes left. Probably not enough to make up the difference. So,
well, make sure. So you're telling me that there's already been 19 races called for Democrats. So if 31 goes to the Democrats, that's 20 already, right?
Yeah, that gets them to 20. Well, if that's not been in the calculation, I don't know how they're calculating here what 19 have been called, but and it doesn't show. But we had to win 3 out of 4 of some seats somewhere. So we've got Brewer, Tara, Danny Diggs. That should help us. And if you can get, now let's go to that race against Aaron Rouse with Kevin Adams in Virginia Beach. If you could pick up that, we may be back in business. And again, remember, the races don't end tonight. They're going to keep going because they've got uncounted votes out there. Unfortunately, I don't think those always help us. But right now in Senate District 22 of Virginia Beach, we've got Billy DeSteff in the 20th, easily winning 24,000 to 15. So we pick up that seat or maintain that seat. Aaron Rouse looks like he has a 380 vote lead with 39 of 48 precincts, 18,000 votes still out. That is a tight race. I've been using that word tight tonight. So that thing is still in play. So if you go back to the feature races and you give us Emily Brewer, Tara Durant, Danny Diggs, and Kevin Adams, we might be in the ballpark. We might. At least it might be 21-19, but that all depends. I can't figure this out. We're going to have, I think we come back tomorrow. We record kind of a post-mortem wrap-up because Lord knows what's going to happen overnight. We may have a better look at this tomorrow night, but let's jump into the house. What do you say? I know you've got VPAP up there as well. They've got featured races on their Verizon system here. Looks like in Prince William, Josh Thomas beats John Stirrup. Close race, less than 1,000 votes, 51% to 48%. In HD22, Prince William, and again, Ian Lovejoy pulls out a Republican victory out of Democrat Northern Virginia, Prince William County. Looks like, and he's been pronounced the winner. Looks like he won 52 to 47, 15,800 votes. Ian Lovejoy, very good guy. Served on the Board of Supervisors, Town Council out there. 14,000 for Travis Nembard. So that's a pickup, a surprising pickup there. Roanoke, Blacksburg, Roanoke County area. Chris Obenshane, Mark Obenshane's cousin. He wins that race in a nail biter. And there's, again, 0 early votes left. It's all brought in, but who knows what's going to float in the mail. But for him to pick up Blacksburg means that he overperformed in the surrounding areas, and they couldn't bring the Virginia Tech people from New Jersey, New York students to come register to beat him. He wins by, it looks like 1,000 votes. That's going to be hard. Here's a surprising one right here. HD House District 57, Western Henrico County. You remember Susanna Gibson, don't you?
I do.
Did you get behind Susanna Gibson?
I did not.
Are you sure? Because Susanna Gibson,
sure.
Known for chatterbait.
Hey, I ain't real smart, but I know what half is.
She was taking tokens and doing sex acts with her husband for money. And I thought that would have been over for her, but this is a tight race. Like
there were people, let's be honest, there were people calling for her to withdraw and get out of the race.
Well, and not only that, people that had given her the Democrats like Tim Kaine, our United States Senator, had actually withdrawn or at least muted his endorsement of her. Susanna Gibson, the nurse practitioner whose practice is probably really growing at least with college students out of the University of Richmond in Western Henrico, she is slightly up. 9,833 to 9,809 against David Owen, who's a great guy, great candidate, great supporter, skill games. 49.85% to 49.73. 16 out of 19 precincts. 3 precincts left. 12,000 early votes, dude. I mean, that's a nail biter. I can't believe that. I mean, what have we come to that now someone does something so bad? I mean, her kids are going to know about it if they don't already. 2 small kids. Goes on the air and basically sells herself and cuckolds her husband, maybe sitting in the House of Delegates, the venerable oldest chamber in the Western Hemisphere of democracy, from the House of Burgesses to the House of Delegates. She's up by 22 votes. That's amazing. 24 votes. Can you believe that?
But in 2023, dude, nothing surprises me anymore.
Looks like in Henrico County, Ronnie Willett beats Riley Shea. He beats her by a little over 1,000 votes, 24 precincts in, 10,000 early votes left. But every time we talk about early votes, you got to figure that the Democrats packed more in. They were better at it than we are. We're just learning the game. Governor Youngkin did a really good job there. Joshua Cole wins in 65, House District 65 over Lee Peters. Lee Peters was a great candidate. Baxter Ennis out of the House District 89 beats Karen Jenkins by a good 500 votes. So far, 27 precincts, no early votes left. That may be there, but again, we always have to talk about those votes that may come back in. This is a big surprise that's going on down right now. Petersburg, Dinwiddie, Kim Taylor, big Republican upset. That helped us get the majority back in the House of Delegates. She's getting just barely beat by Kimberly Pope Adams, who made abortion a big part of her program. But Petersburg is one area that needs some help. Governor Youngkin has been there. 12,908 votes for Pope Adams, the Democrat. 12,322, 29 to 31 precincts, 3,000, about approximately 3,000 early votes left. That's still up in the air. And then you finished, and this is a great victory for Republicans. In House District 97, the incumbent staves off and fends off Michael Fagans, who they poured a lot of money into, and I can imagine 6,954 votes to 6,430. 18 of 20 precincts, 8,000 early votes left. I mean, that's not a lot of voting going on there in Virginia Beach, but so far we're hanging on to that. They're calling it right now 45D, 35R. I'm telling you, Hermie, we're looking at maybe losing the House too, which would be unbelievable.
I'm sitting here trying to do the math on what's already been decided and kind of the way these things are shaping up, and it's I hate to say it, but it looks like it's going to be close, but it looks like a real possibility that we could be looking at a Democratic-controlled Senate and House.
And what would that do for Governor Youngkin's agenda? I mean, that also would make Don Scott, guy that served 7 years in prison. I like Don, but he served 7 years in prison, and he did his time and served his community, but his community confinement, and paid his debt to society. But he could be your new Speaker of the House. And what a fail this would be for Republicans. And the way I'm looking at this right now, they are looking like they could actually lose the Senate. So on leans, so what we got left is 37 Democrats won re-election in the House. They've been declared the winners. 7 Democrats in lean Democratic districts have won 4 undecided. In competitive districts, 2 Republicans have won and been declared winners. 1 Democrat has won. 4 remain undecided as of 10:30 tonight on election night. And then leans Republican, 9 Republican, 8 undecided. Of the 24 Republican, 4 are undecided. So let's do the math. Remember, I became a lawyer because I'm not a math guy, but let's see if you can help me because you are a math guy. So if we pick up all of the strong Republican, 24R plus the 4 undecided, that gives us 28 in the House. Let's say we don't lose anything. If we pick up 17 more of the leans Republicans, so we have to run the table there. So we're 28 plus 17. What's that, Herm?
45.
45. So we're at 45. So it all comes down to the 4. I mean, we've got 2 more, 45 in the competitive districts. We got 2 That gives us 47. That means we're going to have to run the table in competitive districts to get to 51. That's a big load to carry, brother.
Tough.
Yeah. And maybe pick up a leans Democratic. You'd have the 4 undecided there. Chances are you're not picking up any of those. It's not mathematically impossible. It's not there yet. We've still got more time. I mean, votes got to be counted and recounted. People will be going out to canvases and the counting of the votes tomorrow. We still got to hold our breath on the undecided, which are still out there, and even the mail-ins that may trickle in. Maybe there's some Democrats that some Republican votes out there that we can shake from the trees. Who knows? It's still pretty tight.
So while we are speculating, let's speculate on if this ends up going the wrong way, and you've got Governor Youngkin dealing with a Democratic House and Senate. How much more challenging, or what does that do to? I know his momentum and presidential aspirations, all that. I'm not as concerned about that. I'm asking you more of, legislatively speaking, what does this do to Governor Youngkin if, in fact, it ends up being this way? How does it handicap him in any way to continue to push his agenda?
Well, I think it's devastating because he's put his reputation, his energy, everything out on the line, and they're going to do everything they can. Just like you saw Louise Lucas. I mean, trying to embarrass him, humiliate him, not allow his agenda to become law, to ridicule them at every turn, to make sure that he's not a potential future presidential or vice presidential candidate. Anytime that they can embarrass Republicans, they're going to do so. And I don't think you're going to find them willing to work with him. And I think, think about it this way. The money committees, if they're run by Democrats and in both parties, in both chambers, you're going to have, 15 Democrats on the House or the Senate appropriations and 5 Republicans. And I'm number 5, so maybe they pick me to be on that thing, but it doesn't matter what I think. They're just going to push through their agenda. So they're going to carve up his agenda financially, his last 2 budgets financially. And if it goes over to the House, then the same thing's going to happen. They're going to have overloaded committees. They're never going to rule. I mean, the funny thing that is possible here is that you may have a deadlock in the General Assembly's House side, 50-50. What happens then? That's what you talk about, because then you got a power share. They've got to figure out to get a way to get to 51, and there's going to be a lot of horse trading there, and that's still a possibility. So I think we need to look at those possibilities, that this race is not over. This election night is not over an election night like it used to be. So there's so many possibilities, but to answer your question the best I can, it's going to be a mess for Governor Youngkin, and they're going to do their best to embarrass him and make it even more of a mess and to stop his agenda. Now, the great thing that we can count on for at least the next 2 years is that every bad bill that comes from the House and Senate that the Democrats propose, that is liberal, that is awful, he can veto, and they cannot override it. So he's the stopgap. He's the brick wall against the liberal agenda of the Democrats. But that lasts for 2 years. And in 2 years, only the House comes up along with the governor's mansion. And we'd have to get the governor's mansion back and turn the House back to Republican. But we'd still have 2 years left in the Senate. There are 4-year terms in the Senate, 2 years in the House. And so no matter what, the next 4 years are going to be tough for the Commonwealth of Virginia, no matter who's in the governor's mansion. And certainly it's going to be tough for us in the Senate if we're not at 2020. And if we lose the House, it's going to be even worse. So it may be a giant exercise in futility.
Yeah. So right now, looking back at VPAP, it's got, for the Senate, 20 decided races for the Democrats, 16 for the Republicans. And if I pull up undecided races only, there's 4 left. Emily Brewer, we think that's safe for the Republicans. That gets you to 17. Cara Durant, we think that's pretty safe. That gets you to 18. The next 2 are Senate District 22. That's Aaron Rouse and Kevin Adams. Right now, Rouse is showing 51 to 48 advantage. 46 out of 48 precincts, but 18,000 early votes. And then Danny Diggs and Monty Mason is, I I mean, a dead heat, might as well say, with 2,342. And so if the Democrats clip off any one of these next four, that gives them majority in the Senate.
We got to run the table. We have to run the table. And that's so what you're saying of the outstanding, and I'm looking at the same list you are. Everything else has been called except Tara Durant's and
Emily Brewer,
Danny Diggs, Kevin Adams.
And Kevin Adams.
So I'm going to say
all of them.
I'm going to say Danny's going to pull this one out. I'm going to say Tara pulls this one out. So we have to run. So we got to get those all 4 seats just to get us to 20.
It looks like it's going to come down to the Kevin Adams race.
Wow. You know, I politics is just like mind reading. You really can't figure this out, But I'm going to say this. I don't know that I expected, but I'm not surprised by the way Virginia goes. I just didn't think that we'd be here right now with that being so much on the line. We still have a chance, so what you're saying is we still have a chance, right? Herm? But it's an uphill climb. And it looks like it's also going to be challenging in the House. Never would have thought that in the House. Thought they'd maintain. I think when we second guess, we're going to look at some people that maybe came over from the House and wanted to run in the Senate that that maybe have abandoned seats, and those went to Democrats and redistricting. Who knows? It's not all over. There's still more to do. And so what I'm thinking here is, man, we're here at 10:45 on a Tuesday night. Election night in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I hope this has been exciting for you, the listener, as it is for us to do this. And excitement comes in many forms. Right now, it's a little bit of disappointment. But what we still have ahead of us is maybe, as the sun has already gone down here on our beautiful Commonwealth of Virginia, the sun will rise again in the morning. And tomorrow afternoon, maybe you and me, Herm, we get together and we see if these numbers have changed. And we'll probably see, the Democrats and Republicans, we're going to start deploying our forces to try to protect the wins that we got, try to get the wins that we can. What you're going to see here, Hermie, is shenanigans being called, fingers being pointed, lawsuits being filed. This is not over in the least. As much as, as Republicans, I'd love to be feeling a lot better than I am right now. It's not over in the slightest. We've got a lot more in front of us. So I think, let's stretch this into Wednesday afternoon. You and I get back together and we do an assessment of where we are tomorrow afternoon, what the strategy is. Maybe I'll bring in one of our consultants and maybe we can talk about where we go from here in terms of trying to make a final determination of this election here in 2023. And if we win, where do we go from here? If we win one chamber or both, if we lose, where do we go from here in the Commonwealth of Virginia? I think that's going to be an interesting discussion that we tag on the back of this very interesting night that we've had tonight with the two of us, as much as it's not been fun totally for me, but and
also we also got to have a conversation, Bill, about, depending on how things end up, as conservatives that love the Commonwealth of Virginia like you and I do, when are we going to learn? We have to learn from these shortcomings also. And I say that because I'm not going to call any names, and I'm not happy about it because there are a lot of things related to my life, your life, my kids' life, businesses otherwise, that are going to be negatively impacted by what we're going to be dealing with if this ends up not going the right way. But there are so many people on the conservative side, the Republicans, that have acted like, Governor Youngkin, won, and he's had a good couple of years and looks like he had some momentum building.
Yeah.
But there are some people that just have, Republicans, good Republicans, that have been so arrogant and cocky about thinking they were on this path of, bringing dominance back. And regardless of how it ends up, I think we can safely say that people are still divided. People are still split. And so I hope, as conservatives, if we really want to get common sense back I mean, I'm sitting here now looking of all the problems that we've got, in a small town like I live in, the school, how bad a shape they're in, the safety on the streets, inflation, the cost at the grocery store, cost at the gas pumps, all this. And I'm thinking about it now, me, but more importantly, my kids, my customers, all the people that live in this part of Virginia. If this doesn't turn overnight, there's no relief in sight, Bill.
Yeah.
I mean, and the people that are already being crushed are going to be crushed even more.
Yeah.
Because, there's just not any common sense there. But at some point in time, Republicans have to get off their high horse and say, okay, this is why we've had success. This is why we've had some failures, and get out there and try to do a better job of communicating our positions to the people in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Because when it's split, or when there's, the way things are looking now, y'all are going to go over there. I know you're going to go and fight and scratch and claw every day, regardless of the numbers, to try to do good things for the Commonwealth of Virginia and good common sense conservative policies. But the people that are going to be hurt the most are the people that can't afford to be hurt the most when there's when people are unsure what direction they want to send and who they want to give power to in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I'm disappointed that it looks like, at least right now, Republicans have missed on that opportunity.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking on the reasons why and where we go from here. And, did abortion play a bigger role than it should have? Did we stress it in trying to take the initiative by saying they're the radical ones? Where did we miss? Because we competed. Now, remember, we always get outspent by Democrats, and by a number that is larger than most people would think. And still, to be outspent probably by 20, 30 million by the Democrats, we came this close so far. Shows that, one, like you said, we're a split state. But what could we do with even more resources? And had we been a little better and smarter about how we deployed those resources, and also how we had our candidates? Does one message for the entire conservative party of the Republican Party in Virginia, why does it not translate anymore in any area of Northern Virginia? We are now, if these election results stand, there is not a Republican, except Ian Lovejoy, it looks like, out of Northern Virginia. And how far does he last? How long does he last? And at that point in time, then the Democrats control all of that swath of area, and they're completely always telling us down here in Southside and Southwest Virginia how to run our lives, how to lead our lives, and what we should do with our land, whether should we farm it or should we make solar farms out of it. Those are big, big questions. And I think, as we continue to do this podcast week after week, we're going to take a deeper dive into that as we go into the next General Assembly session. It's going to be, I think, a conversation we all have to have as conservatives, but all as Virginians. We are probably the most equally divided state. These election results demonstrate it. And we also not only are divided between liberal and conservative, but it's regional. And that line keeps creeping down a little bit lower. Now it's below the James. It's in Henrico County, right at the James River. And going north, it's mostly Democrat. And we're the stalwart conservatives holding the line down there below the James River. Where do we go from here? How do we make it work? And how do we live together and make the best Commonwealth we can for the next generations? Those are great questions that we're looking at in the future. And so I think we should wrap it up right now, brother. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back tomorrow, but it won't feel like tomorrow to you as long as you're listening to this the same day. We're going to come back to tomorrow to you, and we're going to say, have these numbers changed? Where are we? Where are we going from here? And maybe we'll bring some people on that can make sense of all this that we've been through. But what a fun night, man. I've never done this before. I've usually watched these things in stony silence with my wife. I want to thank Laura.
It's therapeutic to talk about it, Bill.
It is. It's therapeutic indeed. And I want to thank my wife because she is like always on the numbers, and she was back here helping me with these tonight, although she would not come on to the podcast. Still trying. And I want to thank Alan Joseph, who sent me a congratulations. Bobby Labonte did too. Very kind of all the people, Shep Moss and everybody who sent me congratulations.
Look, hey, by the way, before we go, we got to say it one time tonight, don't we? We didn't have him tonight, but he's still our man.
Yeah. And hopefully maybe we'll get him on tomorrow. Who knows? But we can do it. Shep Moss. We miss you, Shep Moss. At least he was not in an election that he could lose. So we wouldn't be having a bad day about that. That's right. He quit. That's quit. Can't lose when he quit, man. But thank y'all. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back here just after another ad. And we're going to tell you what happened the day after. So this is the end of Tuesday night. But when we come back, it's going to be Wednesday afternoon. Hopefully we'll have more answers, probably have more questions. This is Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I'm leaning right into my beer right now, but I still have hope.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, a concerned Virginian. This is Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic. We'll be right back with more results. And as Bill said, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where do we go from here?
Stay tuned.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson with SaveWithConrad.com. You've heard me bragging on the podcast for years about helping people save money on their current house, but did you know that I can help you with your next house as well? That's right, we can get you into your next house with zero down. No money down loan programs are still available, and I know it sounds too good to be true, but we can do it for you. And by the way, home ownership is more affordable than you might think. We routinely turn renters into homeowners, and we hear back that their new house payment is more affordable than what they were paying in rent. Why would you keep doing that? Stop throwing your money away, paying for someone else's mortgage, and start building wealth for your family. And let my family help at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit to do this. We can improve credit scores down to the 500s, and it's worth mentioning, we never say no. We say not yet, but here's how. You need a game plan to buy a house, and that's where we come in at SaveWithConrad.com. We'll ask you, what down payment do you want to make? And zero is an acceptable answer. And what monthly payment do you want? And then it's time to go shopping. Find out how easy it is and how affordable it is to become a homeowner at SaveWithConrad.com.
And we're back for the third segment. I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm leaning right more than the Virginia Senate will be in 2024.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, still in shock, disbelief, and a very concerned citizen and small business owner in Southside Virginia. And this is Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic. And Senator, we've now had roughly 24 hours. It is now Wednesday night, and you and I took the day to take everything in and kind of let things settle and get a more clear picture of where things are, where things are headed, and then we get a chance to be the Monday morning quarterback here on Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. So I know you've been hard at work all day talking to your caucus and your constituents and your people. So give us an idea of the temperature of the Republicans in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's next.
Yeah, interestingly enough, my staff made it that I was going out to Galax to talk to middle school students and high school students at the Galax High School and Middle School. And it was really interesting. Those students were very interested in the election, very interested in politics. So we had a good conversation early this morning. Then went and talked to some farmers and landowners in Grayson about some of their issues as well. They were interested as well because, just like I think the students reflect the region, most of the students we were talking to were conservatives or Republicans from conservative Republican families. And I explained to them the regionalism, that basically what we have here at this point in time is if you go above the James River, like we talked about, it's liberal Democrat. You go below the James, it's conservative Republican. And that's where we split Virginia, and that's where we find ourselves today. And so had some very good conversations. There's some very concerned people out there. Had conversations today with skill game vendors and convenience store owners in the afternoon on my way back. So had a lot of recap and Monday morning quarterbacking from other people who are concerned about where we are. I don't think I talked to somebody who was celebrating today. Maybe I don't have any liberal friends, but I did talk to some Democrats who were down in the area and I met with, and they seem to be concerned as well. So as we now are on Wednesday night at 8:30, we have pretty much found out how the Senate and House of Delegates are going to be in the Virginia General Assembly for 2024. And it's as tight as it was when we started this podcast yesterday. Let's see. Monty Mason has now conceded his race to Danny Diggs in the 24th Senate District out there on the peninsula. Danny Diggs is declared the winner. He won by, looks like, a little under 2,000 votes. So that makes the Senate locked in at 21-19. Started out the year at 22-18 with Aaron Rouse picking up that extra seat after Jen Kiggins became a congresswoman. Now we're 21-19. And I'm telling you, we have never been more than 22-18. We've always been, in my 13 sessions, going on 14 now, 21-19 one way or the other. We were 20-20 at one point. So the Senate reflects Virginia again. Split almost right down the middle, one side to the other, this side to the Democrats. And they're going to make the most of it. You can tell that. And they've got a lot of new members. I was reading where 18 new members, 18. That's almost 50%. After Siobhan Donovan lost and Monty Mason lost, are brand new senators. That's the largest class freshman class in the Senate I've ever seen. Probably one of the largest ones in history since its formation. So that's 21-19. Now, last night, after we got off the air, I mean, we were looking at maybe 22, but it pulled back to 21-19. Some races went back and forth. And then I was talking to our friend Savage, and we were looking at the House races, and that was going to looked like 47 Republican, 53 Democrat. But that tightened up, and it looks like with one race not to be called yet, but it's in the favor of Republicans. That's the race in Petersburg. It looks like the House, just like the Senate, will be 51-49. Believe it or not. We are split right down the middle, but again, in the favor of the Democrats. So the Democrats, it looks like, have control of the General Assembly. The governor's office has control, is controlled by Republicans, Attorney General's office and Lieutenant Governor. So don't expect a lot to get done. I think old Glenn Youngkin's going to have to go get a box of pens because he's going to be writing a lot of I disagree and veto on a lot of bills in 2024, man. What a wild, wild campaign it was. What a wild, wild vote it was. And here we are with what's left of it. So what do you make of it, dude? I mean, what do you think's coming? This looks like divisiveness at its highest peak, with the Democrats at least being able to push the buttons and pull the levers.
Yeah, it's and I alluded to this in our earlier segments. It's disappointing for a number of reasons, because the people that need the most to get done in Richmond are the ones that will suffer the most, because they elect people and want people like you that want to get things done, for your constituents. Your hands are going to be tied in certain ways. It will, in a way, bring people back to the table. People will have to talk, and the governor will have to play a lot of defense. I think he was hoping and thinking that he would be able to, get the House, keep the House, flip the Senate, which was the moniker of the Republicans, and then have the next 2 years to not only continue to push his agenda, but probably pursue maybe some presidential aspirations and other things. Mm-hmm. And now he is right back. He's going to have to play defense.
Okay. You bring up a great you bring up a great point. I don't mean to interrupt, but think of it this way. One of the lobbyists from one of the big lobby firms said a very simple statement to one of my friends. Youngkin is done. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think as far as any presidential aspirations, yes. I mean, that was his. And look, last night was his moment. But I will say that I don't have any. There'll be Monday morning quarterbacks that will be talk negatively about Youngkin because he put himself out there so much. I say, I don't mind him putting himself out there that much. I say, I like a man with some, with some balls. Go out there and put yourself out there. He fired his shot, and he put a lot of his time, effort, raised a lot of money. He shot his shot. If it had worked out, it would have been a completely different story that we're talking about today. The problem is he called the play in the huddle, but the defense sniffed out the play and sacked the quarterback for a loss. And so is he done in Virginia? No, because we really need to, if you're a conservative, a true conservative, which is a whole nother problem of what we don't have a lot of in Richmond. If you're a true conservative, you've got to continue to stand behind this governor because you need him he's the last defense now for the next 2 years to, keeping as much of his agenda in place as we can and leading the charge to negotiate with the Democrats on some common sense legislation and policies that we need. But at the same time, I will say that this just made the governor's race in 2025 way more important.
Yeah.
So it's we'll see. We'll see. But I personally, I've had many people tell me, well, Youngkin was too much worried about his next move, and he did too much of pushing the people he wanted, over other candidates. I'll give you a perfect example, and I don't mind saying it. In my race, I stepped up to run for Senate because I thought we were in trouble and we needed some outsiders, some common sense people that would stand up and fight. Governor Youngkin got involved and basically pushed me out and anointed Emily Brewer, and he did that in some other races as well. Do I like it? No, but I understand if I was in his position and I go back to my football analogy. If I'm the quarterback of a football team, I want an offensive line that I know is going to block for me and protect me. And so I don't necessarily disagree with what he did, although I was negatively impacted by it. But I think part of what we saw here was a lot of people, especially the most conservative of conservatives, didn't like how he went about getting way involved in candidates and the races. And in my case, back to a primary, which was at the time we talked about was kind of unheard of. But he called his play. He ran the play. The play didn't work, but we still need to stand behind this governor because he can still do a lot of good and or prevent a lot of damage in the next 2 years. The question is, can the Republicans or will the Republicans, Bill, learn from this and try to be in better shape in 2025 to elect another Republican to the governor's mansion?
You bring up a lot of good points, and let's see if we can break them down one at a time. Yeah, you're right. He endorsed 10 candidates. All of them won. Not many of them won in the general. He said he was picking the more moderate candidates. He was saying that he was picking moderation over conservatives. Those candidates did not have great success. We had a lot of defections from the House of Delegates for these new and open Senate seats, and for the ones that were open because someone was retiring, and did not have a lot of success. And I still wonder, we talked about that last night, what kind of effect did that have on the outcome of the House of Delegates? Let alone, I know people they have ambition and they want a promotion. And in the Senate, it's great because it's only 40 of us instead of 100. So you can stand out a little more. It's a little bit better because you can run every 4 years than 2 years than those guys do. But our districts are triple the size of theirs. But I wonder what kind of effect that had. And especially with your race and others, and whether that might have played a role in why we're looking at 51-49 in the House. When I came in 11 years ago, they had a super majority I think it was 67 Republicans in the House of Delegates, and it has shrunk ever since. And now on 2 separate occasions now in 4 years of the 13 I've served, the Democrats have control, slight control, barely have control, but control nonetheless, which means they control the speaker and they control the agenda. Those are the Democrats for the next 2 years. And where does it go from here? So you got to wonder, okay, I agree with you. He put all in. I mean, he worked harder than some of the governors I've ever seen in these midterm elections. I give him a lot of credit. He defined the message, but did he define the message properly? When I ran against Roscoe Reynolds 13 years ago, 2011, I focused on, because Barack Obama was president, Nancy Pelosi was the Speaker of the House. I ran ads where I was attacking their governance and making the comparison to the national races. Even though state races have a lot to do with state issues, national issues eke in. So if I look at this, their strategy was not a lot on comparing and contrasting with what is going on in the world today in the United States with regard to the leadership of the Democrats at the national level. Didn't see a lot of that at all. I understand and realize focusing on certain issues like parental rights is fine, but I've been getting a lot of chatter, even from my most conservative friends, that we messed up, we dropped the ball on abortion. I don't think he could have avoided it one way or the other after the Dobbs decision in the Supreme Court of the United States, which returned it to states' rights. But if you look at all these suburban races where we lost, where we had to win, with Siobhan Donovan, an OBGYN, abortion was the number one issue. With Russet Perry and Juan Pablo Segura, abortion was the number one issue. If we could have won one of those seats, we'd be at 2020 and in control. If we'd won both of those, we would have the majority for the next 4 years. So, I don't know if strategies worked. I think he did a great job with the absentee and early voting, trying to catch up to the Democrats, but we're still a year or two behind. So that changed. But I'm reminded of Mark Twain, who said the reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. And I seem to think that he'll find a way to have a consensus. Otherwise, he becomes, as that lobbyist said, done and irrelevant. And I just don't see him as that kind of guy. But he's only going to be relevant to the point where he works on bipartisan issues that the Democrats let him work with them on. I think they have a bone to pick with him. They smell blood in the water. They're going to go after this guy. I got an idea. Silly me. Why doesn't he help small businesses out right now in your lawsuit? He and the Attorney General could actually turn this around a little bit by demonstrating that we take the lead as Republicans in trying to solve the skill game issue and saving a lot of these convenience stores, which may have to shut down otherwise if we have to watch those games get turned off on November 15th and not have them maybe turn back on until we win in late December. He's got to find ways. One, they have to be willing to work with him, but two, where it's a nonpartisan issue that's important to Virginia that everybody can get together on and everybody can take credit for. That's going to be his pathway for the next 2 years. Otherwise, he's just going to be hitting that veto pen a lot and not getting a lot of other things done. And that's a shame.
I just want to say a couple things. And, you have a different seat, different view, because you're actually in the legislature and you have to go to battle every day this upcoming session for your constituents. And you got to try to find ways and people across the aisle that you can work with. And I know you have to, which I appreciate, remain positive and upbeat and hopeful that y'all, meaning the Republicans, can work with Democrats to get stuff done. But here's where me and you might be a little bit separated from our views of how we should move forward starting today. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're aligned. But I'd like to hear your position, because I heard Governor Youngkin say today, paraphrase, some of the same things that you and I were talking about before we hit record, and that is, hey, it's still close. It's 51-49. It's 21-19. If we'd have got a few more here, I don't like that. what I would prefer Governor Youngkin to do today was say, we lost. This is why we lost. And this is what we're going to do to fix it. You're selling a bag of goods to people. I mean, it's like you in the World Series, Game 7. If you lost 2-1 or 10-1, you still lost. Mm-hmm. And so what I don't like is, and I understand why people do it, but I would feel more energized as a Republican and a supporter of my team if my guy stood up and said, hey, we got our ass kicked. We should have won landslides. We should have done this. We should have done that. Don't give me this, well, it was close, and we picked up one in the Senate. Let's have a party. I mean, that doesn't matter. And so what I would have said, and I'm not Governor Youngkin, okay? I'm just telling you my thoughts. I would have said, people, we lost. Here's the reasons we lost. And we've got 2 years to re-rack and regroup and prepare for 2025. And here's some of the things we lost. First thing is, you mentioned abortion. And I'm only speaking when I talk about this in terms of what people have said to me in this process. The messaging on abortion, the Democrats did a better job than the Republicans did. The Democrats had people in our area confused to the point that they had everybody going to the polls to vote thinking that all conservatives wanted to completely ban abortion with no talking about it. You vote for us on Tuesday night. We're going to start Wednesday morning, a complete ban. There was a lot of confusion, Bill, and this wasn't true. I know it's not true, but there were a lot of people that were confused and thinking that if we put Republicans in charge, they want to completely ban abortion, and it will start doing it Wednesday morning, especially the suburban women that you talked about. So we've got to reframe and re-rack our messaging on that. Another hot button issue that I heard about more than one that I don't think was true, but we talk about messaging and what the Democrats did better than Republicans. The Democrats had, at least people that I talked to, they had people believing that every Republican candidate was a MAGA extremist like Donald Trump. Yeah. Everyone.
Yep.
And they branded our candidates that way. And so, if you're a hardcore conservative and you like the fight in Donald Trump, you're okay with that. But go back to the suburban women and some of these other people that don't like the abrasive nature of Trump, and they want somebody that's going to unite people and bring them together. And so I would have stood up in Youngkin and say, hey, the Democrats, their messaging, although not truthful, was better than ours on abortion and on Donald Trump. And I like that message. Let's admit our mistakes. And, I'm in the petroleum business, and I've got a store here, and a guy across the street is my competitor. Either I'm winning or I'm losing, Bill. It doesn't matter how close I'm losing. So, we've got a modified race team.
Yeah.
Are we celebrating next week with our race team at Top Golf in Charlotte if Bobby Labonte finishes second in those last 2 out of 3 races? I'm not.
No.
So
that's a no.
Winning is important. But so now we have to, I just think there has to be a time where we get off of the trying to find a silver lining and talk about how we regroup and win. And we have to nominate candidates, Bill, that are going to be able to run campaigns that energize and mobilize the Republican base. And we just didn't have that this year. Yeah. And it came back to bite us.
Yeah, an amazing, just like I said early on in this broadcast,
and I'm
part
sorry.
3. No, don't apologize. I think you're right. I mean, we went after Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Congress in 2011. We did not do any of that. It seemed to me not a part of our messaging that we were in real trouble as a nation and we could fix it here in the state. And then we let them control the narrative on abortion. You're exactly right. And then the MAGA extremists. I mean, they're even using that term in their victory dances, in their statements. Swecker from the Democrat Party of Virginia was using it. Don Scott was using it. And they have an acute ability of finding phrases like abortion is actually women's health decisions. And people eat into that, and the press eats in that. Republicans or conservatives now are MAGA extremists, which now evokes the memory, of course, instantly of people seeing on TV January 6th where people were storming the Capitol. So they're very good at that. And we're never good at pushing back on them. If we do, we have an explanation that takes 5 minutes to explain, and we've lost the audience.
We've got to do better. One other question.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And I want your expertise on why you think this didn't work. But Youngkin, I wasn't totally overjoyed when Youngkin came in pretty much right off the bat and said, I'm in favor of a 15-week ban and yada, yada, yada. Okay. Youngkin extended the olive branch to the moderates and to the suburban women by saying that, but it seems like the Democrats won on both sides of it. They still were able to frame it as, you can't control our bodies and it's a healthcare decision like you're saying. And also they had other people believing you can't believe what Youngkin says because if they get full control, they're going all the way.
Yep.
Why was that messaging from Youngkin not able to neutralize Democrats on that issue? Because to your point, Republicans really lost on that one issue, and you got to have people really crossed up when that one issue beats people's concerns over the economy and inflation and all these other problems that we got that me and you as dads and as leaders of families and small businesses and employees, all these problems, they dominated the messaging. Why didn't Youngkin's olive branch work? And how did it turn out to be a double whammy? Because it hurt us both ways.
Well, I think if you look at the abortion, my opinion is, he says a 15-week ban. As soon as you use the word ban, then it's a ban. Doesn't matter what week it is, it's a ban. It's a ban from conception, and that's how they played it, and they can say it very easily and very quickly, and it sticks in people's heads. Remember, you got to tell people 6 or 7 times over the same thing to get it to stick in their head. But it's not hard.
I heard all through my campaign. If you're explaining, you're losing.
And I even told you that too, brother. And if you're sitting there going, no, I don't mean ban. I mean, look, this is what Europe does. It's 15 weeks, feels pain, a fetal heartbeat, a brain's forming. It's a human life. Now you're getting into this long excursion. They just go, they're going to ban your right to choose. Ban. And that's right. Why MAGA extremists, 2 words. They coined the phrase, and that's what people remember. They don't remember when Kathy Tran, the Democrat, and Ralph Northam, the governor at the time, proposed an enshrinement of abortion that will allow it up to and after birth. If you ask anybody that in a poll question, 80-90% say absolutely, that's horrible. But if you try to explain it in a 30-second commercial or 5 minutes, when the guy on the other side is saying abortion ban your right to choose, then you're probably losing. And I think that was too convoluted. Probably could run on so many other issues and still be pro-life and have done better for it. We got caught up in their game. They play it better. They play the ballot harvesting, the early voting, the absentee voting better than we do. They play the messaging better. And of course, don't ever forget that when you control the media like they do, then you control the message. And then when you control the message, you control the delivery and the repetitiveness. And so we're always at a disadvantage like that. Don't forget, they spent a buttload more money than we did. So their message was coming out and over and over and over, and we could barely keep up. So they control the media. They got more money. They got more billionaires. These billionaires that they always accuse are hurting the environment and not paying their taxes are all Democrats, and they're giving money to them. The unions now are going to take over, and they had control, and they had control of messaging. That's why I think we didn't do as well as we could have. If we'd said Biden sucks, right now, America, is not in the right direction. Biden sucks. Like my campaign manager, Chris LaCivita, is actually running Donald Trump's show now. 11 years ago, you would have thought I was running against Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi, because in every ad I'd put my opponent's face there and then rise up behind him in the background. Here's Barack Obama, here's Nancy Pelosi, and you thought I was running for Congress. People equate that. If you got people to think about their pocketbook issues, their dining room table issues right now, their kitchen table issues, as we call them, is my life better than it was 4 years ago? And they believe that a Virginia state senator can make a difference, or a House of Delegates member can make a difference to ease that pain, they're going to vote for you. But if they get distracted by the swift words and nifty sayings of the Democrats, your message never penetrates, and they forget how bad Biden is. And now Biden's sitting there going, hey man, I got a shot. Look at me. Even though it's 51-49 in the House, a Democrat, and 21-19 in the Senate. That's not a big win. And so when you were saying earlier with Youngkin, I think it is with him, look, we're all smarting. We didn't really think it would be this bad, but we always have in the back of our mind that might be. So when you say, man, that sucked, but it could have been worse, that's kind of what you come out the next day. Hey, we gained a seat in the Senate. We didn't lose anything, but our mantra was hold the House, flip the Senate. And what the Dems ended up doing was flipping the House and holding the Senate. And so that's a loss. And I think you're exactly right. If you lose, you lose. You don't lose by a little bit. What did Dale Earnhardt say? Second place is the first loser, or was that?
I want to make sure you understand. We're split. I mean, we're divided. Our state is divided, and our country, in a lot of ways, is divided. And I just think there's a lot of people, including me, that we don't want to hear. Don't explain to me why we didn't win. Let's clearly establish the issues, clearly establish why we lost, and offer a coherent plan that the governor on down can sell to the people in the next 2 years. Because if we keep on just saying, well, we're this close, and keep going down the same path we're on, I mean, we're in trouble. And so I only just say, I hope that the people in leadership in the Republican Party, including you, as a friend that I love dearly, and I know you're going to work hard and do the right thing all day, every day. But is everybody else? I don't know. But I'm just saying, if I were there, and I'm not, and I my first instinct, I got to tell you, Bill, my first instinct last night when things started to go sideways was, man, I'm glad that I didn't win the primary, and I'm glad that I didn't get elected. I'd be over there in a minority and couldn't get shit done.
It'd be miserable.
But I woke up this morning saying, I am so pissed off that I didn't win my primary and get elected, because I would have gone over there and not only fight, but I also believe I have an ability to get people together and bring people together from both sides and have conversations and get things out of people, get things on the table, invoke communication, invoke, negotiation, and try to make a difference. I think I could have been better at that than what's going over there. So forgive me for thinking that, but that's what I believe.
I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's wrong. But, we need fighters right now, not people that are trying to move up the ladder, especially when you're in the minority. You've got to be, I miss Senator Billy Carrico. You met him. We've had him on the show. Man, when we were in the minority, he and I were the 1-2 punch. We may have been outvoted, but we weren't out-talked. And we made our positions clear, and we made them distracted. We made them modify their positions. We fought them on the hypocrisy. We need more of that in there, not people that just want to be called senator. So I agree with you on that.
Well, and to your point, when I was talking about this with my wife, I'm like, my first thing was, when Emily Brewer won, which, glad she won, but it's like, well, for her, it's 4 more years of taking money from lobbyists and cocktail parties.
Yeah.
At some point in time, Bill, I guess we've got to flip the script. we've got to, what we're doing is not working. And so, this was a great opportunity for Youngkin and the Republicans. It could have been a historic night for Republicans and moving ahead for the next 2 years.
Or would have set the national stage. I mean, could have set the table for returning sanity to the United States.
Could have done all that, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So we have to realize where we are, how we got here, identify these problems, and break it down, as I said before, and present a coherent, understandable for everybody plan of here's what went wrong and here's how we're going to fix it, and we need y'all's help, and encourage people to come to the party instead of from the top down telling everybody who they're supposed to like, who they're not supposed to like, who they're supposed to vote for, who they're not supposed to vote for, who's really a conservative and who's not a conservative. These people are not stupid.
Yeah.
And so we've got to start treating them that way.
Yeah. No. Amen, brother. Sadler for governor 2025. I smell what the Sadler's cooking. Huh? Right? No?
But you understand what I'm saying?
I get it. And you're exactly right. And the thing is that too often we let them run over top of us. Too often we elect people that aren't, grassroots fighters that stick with principle. Too often we allow people at the top, actually, in this case, people that really didn't have a lot of experience in politics directing a narrative that obviously didn't win. And now we in Virginia pay a price for it in the Senate for the next 4 years and at least for the next 2 years in the House. And again, though, I'm glad Youngkin is here. Could you imagine if we had a Democrat governor right now? They would finish the job they started back with Northam, and the House and the Senate were all Democrat. That political jewelry store smash and grab to pop the top on the jewelry counter and steal all the riches of Virginia and to make a mess of things, and then it can never be reversed. And those things can't be reversed now because we have House Democrats, Senate Democrats. They're on the lead, and they're having a party, and they're going to do whatever they can to put up the most outrageous bills. And what I want everybody who listens here, and I even had Principal today at Galax who came up and said they love the podcast. We're sorry that you didn't win the race. Well, that felt good too. And but what I want everybody to watch now is as we go into the next General Assembly session, and hopefully we'll be there doing our podcast, keeping everybody honest, is see exactly what the Democrats really are, because they're going to be like kids in a candy store. They can't help themselves. We're going to recount some of those outrageous bills as they come out. And luckily, I guess, still Glenn Youngkin will be there with his veto pen, stopping that madness. And that should remind us in the next 2 years, when these elections come around again for the House and the governor's mansion, of why we cannot let one party rule in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and especially not those liberal Democrats from Northern Virginia and on the Eastern Shore. So that's the wrap up. You got anything else you want to say? But I'm telling you what, man, you're very adroit. And I think a lot of Virginians see it the same way as you do. We've got to do something different. We've got to do it better. We've got to get better at this game. We just can't expect right to win. Being right doesn't mean being right wins. I mean, can you believe Susanna Gibson goes on, on the internet and has sex for tokens and almost wins? She lost her race barely, but she almost won. What does that say where we are as a society and as a Commonwealth?
We can't control all that, Bill. What I'm telling you is I want us to be able to sit here 2 years from now and say, remember back on November the 7th, 2023, we didn't have the night we wanted. Look how things have changed, and look how we flipped the script and changed the narrative by finally admitting, that we don't do certain things as good as the Democrats do, and fixing those problems and being real with the people, because a lot of people are confused on where conservatives stand on things.
Right.
And it has a lot to do with that. They had an easy one issue. They used, to your point a little while ago, one issue, and we had to explain and talk, and well, maybe not that. So we've got to find a way.
It cost us.
It cost us. It really did.
Yeah, brother.
It really did. But it's every loss whether it's on the racetrack or in politics or in business or in life, every setback is an opportunity for a great comeback, right? So,
that's right.
That's really, I want to make people understand where I'm coming from with this is, from where I sit, let's just not keep selling to people on how good things are. They know we're in trouble. And for the next 2 years, I hope they pay attention like you're talking about to see how much trouble we could really be in if Glenn Youngkin wasn't sitting at that chair.
Yeah.
So
thank God for that. Yeah.
Let's fix it.
You're exactly right. Those are words to live by, Herman, and I appreciate your viewpoints, and I think there are a lot of people out there that are kind of stunned by the result and not accepting failure as you've demanded that we not. And what are we going to do different? What are you going to do to change? What are you going to do to make the outcome different? What are you going to do to make Virginia better? So you're exactly right, Hermie, and it's a sad Wednesday for Republicans in Northern Virginia. Third drink is free at McAdoo's up there or whatever kind of bar they're at. And they're celebrating all those things. But I think we're going to have a reminder for the next 2 years about, unless we do change as a party and bring that suburban voter to vote for us and build that trust, we're going to be seeing this get bigger and worse as the years go on. And what then do we leave for our children here in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
We all look at things through different lenses. And I'll say one more thing. About the abortion issue, which Democrats used to confuse a lot of people, but because of the confusion with abortion, I've got to sit here, and you sit. If these people get their way, the California emissions will kick in here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and there'll be no more gas-powered engines being sold in the Commonwealth of Virginia in 10 years or less.
Yeah,
come on,
2035. 2035. Yeah. And thank God for Governor Youngkin pulling us out of Reggie, the regional greenhouse gas effect initiative that would submit and the Democrats submitted the authority for us to make those decisions when it came to power, energy, and electric vehicles or gas vehicles to California. And people don't see it. People are otherwise busy and they don't see it or they don't get it until it's too late to undo it. So thank God we got Governor Youngkin here. I'm sorry he didn't win, but yeah. And a guy like you, you know what the real struggle is when it comes to energy. And we'll need to have another talk about that, maybe on another episode, to really say where we come with energy. I think we can bring some people here to demonstrate that those initiatives, the windmill initiatives, the solar power initiatives, are not reliable, and that we need to take our energy future into our own hands, whether it's in Virginia or anywhere else, and stop this nonsense. But it's still going to take some time. It's slow, but I think America's waking up. Sure.
Hey, one more thing. I know you'll take this the right way. You're a great attorney. Done great things for me and my family and small businesses across the Commonwealth of Virginia, fighting this fight and many other fights that I know you're involved in.
Thank you.
When you go to court, you have a strategy.
Yes.
I'm working with you close enough with this issues that we're working on. You have a strategy and a game plan and a plan of how to execute it in court. You have to take your position in leadership and take that to these other people in power in Republican Party in Richmond and say, if we're going to turn the table, if we're going to win, we have to have a plan and a strategy to implement something that people can understand. We can't just keep talking about how close we are. I mean, if we go to court in December, Bill, we're going to win or we're going to lose.
That's right.
It's not going to be, and I can be at peace either way because we're doing everything we can. But you have a strategy, a plan, and how to execute it according to the people that you are trying to talk to. And that has to be the same strategy that the Republican leadership has, or guess what? We're going to sit here in 2 years and have the same conversation. So you're in as good a position as anybody to try to help that.
Are you putting that responsibility on me, dude?
I am.
Damn.
I'm putting you on notice.
All right, I got to go to bed then. I love you, Hermie Sadler. Thank you all for listening to this very special edition of Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. Election night blues and reds. It was quite an adventure sharing it with you. And I know it's now Thursday and you're listening to something that happened on Tuesday and Wednesday. But I think this is an important part of history. And just as Hermie said, you got to wake up, man. You got to do things different. We got to change the outcomes or we're doomed to their vision of America.
Go get them, Bill. You got them, Bill.
I'm on it. I can do this, man. I can do it. Well, it's going to be very interesting another couple of years here in the Senate. But brother, I wish you were there with me. But thanks for talking tonight. And thanks to everybody who's listening to us. You can always go on our website, SadlerSenator.com. No, wait, that's our our Twitter handle at Sadler Senator. We got a website, which is Leaning Right and Turning Left podcast, www.Leaning Right Turning Left podcast. And you can find us on Facebook and SS Racing. Hermie's on Facebook. He's always posted, man. I watch all his stuff. It's funny. It's fun. And you can find me there as well, Senator Bill Stanley or William M. Stanley. Thanks for listening to this very special episode. We'll be back next week and hopefully, maybe, with a guy who was elected to a town council and then quit. Chef Mouse. We'll get him back and get his perspective as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I'm probably the only person leaning right now to the right in the Virginia State Senate as far as I can count.
And I'm Hermie Sadler. This is Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic. Let's get to work, Virginia, and we'll see you next week.
Let's go get them, boys and girls. God bless you all.